N.U.B.Y.
Hey, welcome to episode 2 of the N.U.B.Y World Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jason Love, aka Mr. Love, the curator of culture, and I'm joined by my favorite co-host. First up, I have Dennis Griffin, aka the man with the plan, the man with the vision. Last but not least, I have Dr. Jeanette Russell, the local legend in literacy, joining us again today. Welcome, everybody. How y'all feeling?
Pretty good.
Just glad to be here. That's about it.
That's what's up. So now, just a quick recap of our last episode. We got a chance to introduce ourselves and share our origin story. I want to make a quick apology for some of the technical difficulties that I had with my camera. We learning as we go. That was a teachable moment. Hopefully this week we switched up the platform. We gonna continue to make some minor improvements till we get it just right. So we definitely thankful for any feedback that everyone out there is providing for us. So thank you if you made it through with my freeze ups, and my co-host did so well. They act like they ain't know it was, well, they knew it was going on, but they act like it wasn't happening. So shout out to them. Our topic last week was hitting the wall. Do either of you have anything to add to that topic before we move on to that? I think we nailed it.
I don't have anything to add, but I think we definitely do need to revisit that episode.
Oh, okay.
I think coming back like around January would be a good time because we're re-engaging after that winter break. That might be a really good time just to remind people like, hey, don't get so hyped up when you come back that you hit the wall again like in February.
Right, definitely. We definitely got to do that. How has everybody's week been this past week? Anything new? Anything going on?
Hey, I had a great time with kids. We got to talk about how we're going to continue to strive and learn these new reading curriculums that we've just purchased for our district, and just like continuing to build upon the success we had from last year.
Okay. What about you, Doc?
Well, for me, I basically try to spend as much time with family as I can. I went to visit my younger sister who just had a baby. We were in Chicago. She lives right around the lakefront. So we were downtown. She lives in the area where Chicago Marathon was just about to happen. So that happened this morning. But, they were getting the city ready to go. So it was good visiting family.
And that's what's up. Congrats. It must be baby season. My sister-in-law just welcomed her first baby this weekend. So it's in the air. It's in the air. Work-wise, we got some yeses on some hires. So this upcoming week, we close some of these vacancies up. So we getting there. In terms of personal life, I'm going hard on NBA 2K on Xbox. Making it happen, So one day I'm gonna share my gamer tag for any of our viewers that want to get down. You know what I'm saying? I'm still pouring into me when I can. The little bit of Xbox. Now we gonna get right into the topic. So, like I said, last week was kind of a intro, and we spent a lot of time on that. But we plan on just getting right to it so we can have some nice, healthy discussions. Now, our topic or question for today is it classroom culture or is it classroom management? And the what are they and the impacts of them both? I'll lead off and give what I think classroom culture is, and then you two can chime in as needed. When I think of classroom culture, I'm thinking of norms in the classroom, your beliefs, your values, why you do what you do, like your purpose. And I know later on, oh, by the way, we got some new segments coming for y'all. So I know later on, Mr. Griffin gonna dive in on that purpose a little bit. That's just some little foreshadowing, but that's kind of like where I come from on my stance with culture. Do you two have anything you want to share when it comes to classroom culture and what it is?
With classroom culture, I also want to add to everything that you just said, Mr. Love, but also add that you also need the backgrounds of the students involved in your classroom culture as well. That could be their home language, linguistic factors, also things that they like to do outside of school, things that they're doing with their family. So just having that time where you feel like you care and value what they bring to the table and also what you're bringing in that classroom as a part of that culture piece.
Yep.
And I'm going to piggyback off of that. It's about relationships. A lot of times when we talk about this management and culture dynamic, we talk at it from a standpoint of management, like what are the rules? And rules are not relationships, and people have to understand that. Tell me what you know about a kid. Tell me how much you're engaging, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to belong to wherever they're going. If I'm going somewhere every single day, I absolutely want to feel like you know my name, you know who I am, you care about me. If we're going to talk about culture, because when you talk about the management side of it, you don't have to know who I am to make me fall into your management routine.
Yep. And so earlier, right before we started recording, we had a conversation that Dr. Russell was kind of reflecting on the times that we taught together in the same building. And can you tell our viewers kind of how you looked at both of our classrooms?
Well, in my classroom, I'm a very calm person and I'm a very calm teacher. So
Mm-hmm.
pretty much your students feed off of the energy that you're giving off. So if my class came in and they're calm, then they know that I'm calm, then they're going to be a calm group of students. Now, on the flip side, in Mr. Love's classroom, if we were to switch students for the day, for example, if I taught reading and then he would teach math, his students knew right away that when they were coming into a welcoming classroom, that they felt loved, that I was still able to build a relationship with his students, even though he was with them most of the day. But there was just a difference in the classroom culture that we had in our classrooms. You can totally see the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Love, you can kind of explain like your side of things when you had your group of students.
I think in our room we kind of operated like a family in a sense, and kind of like a gang in a sense. So like my students like kind of gave me that reverence that they would give like a father or an uncle or a big brother, and we basically we were a family. We loved each other. We had our ups and downs. We had our arguments, but we kept it all in house, and we tried not to let any outside factors really affect anything going on in our room in a sense. But we knew who our extended family was. Our extended family was Dr. Russell classroom. Like we knew like those were our peoples. Like when we went outside, like our kids in my room knew the kids in her room. We looked out for them. They looked out for us. Like one of the years that I talked with Dr. Russell, I was telling her, reminding her earlier, like I had 18 boys and 4 girls. So like nobody bothered those 4 girls because it was like they had 18 brothers with them at all times. Like transitioning through the building and outside and things like that. But like everybody knew like the role that they played in the classroom. They knew my role and what they expected out of me, but it was kind of free flowing in a sense where, oh, you got the answer, shout it out. Like you didn't have to wait because I was just eager to have people participating. But it was to the naked eye to be like, man, there's a lot going on. But it was really organized in a sense because they knew what it was. And it was like a well-oiled machine. Like we had times where like I know I didn't have like a teacher's aide all the time. If I had to go to the restroom, I would march 20 some odd kids to the staff lounge. I would go in the restroom. They would just be all lined up in the staff lounge, quiet, just waiting on me to come out. And that was just the norm. People would come in and make copies and be like, oh, here go Mr. Love and them again. And it was just the thing. Like they knew how to behave when they were out because we treated it like, oh, don't act out in front of company. So it was like that, just that whole family vibe. And that's kind of how we operated. Griffin, how would you describe kind of the culture back when you were in the classroom?
I think I was a blend of both of you. I was super, super serious because academics was so important to me. But at the same time, I wanted the kids to have fun and be able to relax and express themselves. So my uncle once told me, he was like, you got to remember when kids come into your classroom, you don't know what they're dealing with at home. At home, we're
Right.
telling they're like the big brother, the parent per se, but then they come to school and you're saying like treat them as a kid. And it's like that dynamic, you got to understand how that works when they're inside your classroom, because some of our kids have such big responsibilities. Or you got the kid that's the jokester. For me, I just taught the kid when to tell the joke so it didn't interrupt the flow of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I was honoring them. I was making them a part of the culture. At the same
Yep.
time, it functioned within the confines of the management system that I had in place at that time.
Yep. And so we talked about culture a little bit. Now, management. What comes to mind when you guys think of classroom management? Either you can chime in first.
I was just thinking about organized chaos when you think about
Okay.
classroom management.
Okay.
So
Okay.
organized chaos, I mean, everyone in the classroom, they know how the classroom can flow and how it's managed. For example, if I was absent for the day and I was to have a substitute teacher come in, my students would know how to run that classroom. But then again, I didn't want them to tell the substitute what to do, only because that's their classroom at the time.
Right.
But for my student, I always felt that if my classroom can run without me, then my classroom management is stable. That's all I needed.
And it's funny that you say that, Doc. When you look at the evaluation systems, when the kids run the classroom for you and enforce the expectations and the rules, that's like the highest level when it comes to teacher performance in regards to the discipline classroom management side. I've struggled with the term management, to be quite honest with you, because I always think about like the management being where you control it until you can't control it no more. And then it's this big eruption. And then everybody's like, oh my goodness, this classroom is out of control. Well, truth of the matter was a lot of little things was building up already before we even got to that big explosion. So that's why when Love was talking about like the culture piece, that hit me harder, because when you create an environment where people want to belong, you don't got to worry about managing it, because you want them to release their full potential. You want them to release all that energy and that greatness that's within them. So I'm more of the side of like, let's lean more towards this culture piece and not just to the rules and routines of the day, because that's what a lot of people reference it to. And just a little side note, I used to be a little jealous because I had good classroom management too, but a lot of people confuse a teacher with good classroom management equals a high learning classroom. And that's not the truth. A lot of times the teacher can just be the enforcer of the rules and kids don't learn a thing. But we think because, oh, every time you walk past that class, it's quiet, that means like there was learning. Whereas like when you gave your example, Doc, I guarantee you, yeah, your class was calm, but there's a high level of engagement and learning that was happening nonstop.
And that's what I mean, Dennis, by organized chaos. Because you can walk past the classroom and the students are just sitting quietly. I don't think that's conducive to a learning environment at times. You really have to have your students become the facilitators. Once your students are the facilitators, then you don't have anything else to worry about, because they take ownership of their learning. It no longer rests on the teacher, because they know that there's value in what they are learning. And I've never met or heard from a student that they didn't want to learn. Maybe that they did not want to learn at this particular time, but not, I just don't want to learn.
Right.
So definitely having that classroom management piece and that culture, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and I kind of look at classroom management as basically your checks and balances that keeps the culture intact, like a set of things that make sure you maintain the culture of the classroom. So you might have these rules and these things, but basically all those do is keep your culture the same without it shifting in a sense. And it can shift for the worst at times if you don't have that bit of management. But I'm one to think that if you have that strong culture, the stronger the culture, the less management that's needed in a sense. Kind of like Doc was saying, where it can get to where it's almost automated in the classroom. The kids know exactly what to do. They know what's expected of them. They know what to do when they first walk in, where their supplies go, where the coats go, and they can kind of just move through. And it's just up to the teacher to just present the new content for the day, but the actual flow of the day, the kids know it already. And I think when you got that culture in place, the stronger that is, the less time you spend managing, the less you have to call a student out for doing the wrong thing, the fewer phone calls you making to parents for negative things instead of doing the positive calls, which enhance your culture at the time. So I think they go hand in hand, but I definitely feel like if you got that culture piece in place, it'll outweigh the need for a lot of management. And Griffin brought up a good thing when he talked about how sometimes you have an enforcer and it's not a lot of learning taking place. I do think there's a time when you need enforcers. Like Dennis and I work in the same building. We have subs coming to the building, or sometimes we have a building sub that covers a room, and we'll say, well, so and so, we know we're not going to get no phone calls from this person during this day that this teacher is out. So like for a sub, yeah, I want a sub that's an enforcer. Like you just here to make it through a day. Yeah, you just keep them in check, because you basically doing some lessons that the teacher just left for you to do, or some supplemental things or some review stuff. So yeah, I want an enforcer that day. Don't give me a super instructor that can't handle the classroom for 24 hours. So it's times when I want that enforcer in the building, but for the most part, I want somebody who can establish a positive culture in the classroom. And you really ain't gonna get that a lot in a sub. That's like finding lightning in a bottle. If you get a sub that come in and get a strong culture in a day, you better hire that sub. Trust me, I'm the dude that hire. I will take a sub in a heartbeat if I feel like you got something going on. Like I'll ask you your name, get your resume. I got you if I see you got that potential. Um, Now, when we do our intros, you got some. It looked like you
Just
had
so,
some, didn't it?
real
Yep.
quick, Mr. Love.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things
Mm-hmm.
that I can tell you just from listening to you and to Doc, another way that you know you have a strong culture within your classroom, word travels. And you know who
Mm-hmm.
spreads the word? The kids. The
Yep.
kids go around telling their friends, this is the classroom you want to be in. You want this
Mm-hmm.
teacher. And then when those kids come around or they get in trouble and get sent to your class, because I'm quite sure we've all been in that situation where you get the kids that are disruptive in other areas, those kids fall in line with the culture that you've already created, not because you quote unquote enforce it all the time. It's the other kids that look at them like, wait a minute, you're not going to come in here and do that in this classroom. Now, in
Mm-hmm.
another class, you can, but not this. It's like, it's almost like holy grail. Like this area
Mm-hmm.
is like a sanctuary of what we built, of what we believe in, and you got to fall in line with what we do here.
Yep. And then
Mhm.
also it's a saying that I had heard like some years back. I always thought it and I said it, but then Dennis and I were at a I want to say we were at a PLC training in Madison. Maybe was that last year, last
Mm-hmm.
summer? They popped a slide up and it said culture eats content and curriculum for breakfast or something like that. And it's true. I think you gotta have that culture to set the stage for learning in the classroom. Because if you can have the best instructor, somebody that can teach, but if you can't get the kids ready and in that mood for learning, get them settled and meet the needs that they have outside of the classroom, you'll never get to that high level of instruction that you want to get to. So culture isn't everything, but it sets the stage, it sets that foundation so learning can take place. Uh, Doc and I have been in buildings, and of course I'm not gonna say no names right now. We've been in buildings with teachers that thought that they was coming to school just to teach. Like they want to walk in and teach on it. Griffin too. There's some in our building. They come in. I just want to teach. I didn't plant this spectacular lesson. I got all this differentiation. I got this and that, but don't have any hands or input on the culture of the classroom. So your kids are all over the place, and you trying to get this top notch 5-star lesson, and it just don't pan out. And you might have spent a lot of time creating that lesson and having assessments ready, but if you don't have the kids, like they say, you got to reach the students before you teach the students. So like if you don't have them ready and ready to accept and take in that knowledge, then it's a loss and it goes to waste. How
I
do you
mean,
guys feel about that?
the first couple of weeks, J Love, we talk about it all the time. Don't
Mhm.
come tell me what your lesson plans are the first 2 weeks of school. Your
Yep.
first 2 weeks is building that expectation based on those routines and is building that connection that makes kids want to be in your classroom. That's what I'm looking for, because I would much rather you spend the first 2 to 3 weeks getting that down pat and then we have a smooth year versus, oh, I came in teaching day one because I'm a teacher. And then the rest of the next 3 to 4 months, we trying to put systems in place to like get your classroom back to where we could have started it from the very beginning.
Now, my
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
question for you two, just based on what you both were just saying about, and I completely agree, you cannot go into a classroom knowing that, okay, I don't have the culture, it hasn't been established, and you don't
Right.
have rituals and routines in place. You can be the best teacher when it comes to content, but when it comes to actually delivering that information, then that may be a struggle for you. So, how do you set up teachers for success if they have the knowledge and they have the content? How do you set up teachers for success when it comes to establishing classroom management and also classroom culture, which is a big piece?
That's a great
Oh,
question.
How do you
that's a good
support your
question.
teachers? Because you
That's a
want to
great
set them up for
question.
success. I mean, let's set up teachers for success. I don't believe in just throwing a teacher into a classroom and they don't
Agreed.
have any tools.
It's a couple of things. Number one, the first thing I would say, looking at it from like a building leadership lens and not like just an individual teacher. uh Jason and I have worked together for 5 years at Brown
Mm-hmm.
Deer Elementary School. The fact that we return all 5 years, the fact that I've been there 6 years, there's certain expectations that like we breed from the top, and build that confidence into teachers. Like, you know what? There's going to be conflict. Here's one of the ways that we would model dealing with it. Like, literally to the point, if there's a situation, I will model how to engage with the student in front of the teacher. And then cycle back, hey, show me how you would engage in a situation right now. Are you letting the kid lean against a wall? Are you letting them roll their eyes at you? Or are you saying, hey, I respect you. I need you to respect me. Give me your eyes. We need eye contact right now. I want to deal with this between me and you without saying my first line of defense is just to go run, call your mom, and then bring an outside force into the classroom. Like, teachers have to understand this is your holy grail. You set the tone. It is always okay for you to reach out for assistance, but we got to make sure that you have a presence in there. When you talk about setting up people for success, J Love, you play video games all the time. I haven't played in a while. I look at the classroom culture aspect as, how are you building your team in a certain sense? Who is the leader of the classroom from a student perspective? Because there's always one or two kids. If you get them, you got the rest of the class. But if you don't get them, it's going to be this domino effect. And then also, how are you adapting your personality to the kids? Most of the times when I see a lot of the struggle that happens in schools, it's this strong stance we take. Well, this is my classroom, I'm it. No, you got to flip your style to meet the needs of the people in front of you, of the kids in front of you. Now, there is a time you got to draw the line in the sand, but make sure you did your work in adapting yourself first before you take that strong line.
Man, I 100% agree. So I go a little bit into my origin story, and I think with these different topics, I think you're gonna continue to learn more about all three of us. So my last building before I was at Brown Deer, my actual title was assistant principal of school culture. We had two APs. So the other AP, her main focus was all academics and instruction. So like teaching and curriculum. My whole focus was the culture of the building. Now, to most people, it just meant he's the person that focuses on behavior and discipline. But I had to use it and put a different spin on it. And it was kind of like Mr. Griffin just said, is how can I give teachers resources that they need? How can I give them the skills and practices that they need? So along with doing professional developments and speaking with them and sharing my past and my experiences, I worked with a team in the building, which was at MAS, it was their culture team. And I worked with those guys and gave them tools to use. So when they had to give a student a break from a classroom, our goal wasn't to keep those kids. It was to bring those kids into a different environment, talk those kids up, get them ready, see what's going on, do whatever we could do to get them ready to learn and send them back into the room. But that was just one part of the complete cycle. The other part was, now I have to go into these classrooms and monitor and observe teachers to see what the culture in their room is, and then have those follow-up conversations like, hey, when you did this, how about you try this next time? Or, hey, let's work on proximity in the classroom. Instead of you standing in front of the room, move around, show your presence throughout the room. I hit my mic, but move around throughout the room, lay a hand on the shoulder, give some high fives, some positive affirmations as you move around. Hey, after school, make a couple positive calls to some of the kids that are usually in trouble, but just giving those little tips and things like that can help build that culture. So I was working on both sides with the kids that we were removing from the rooms, but also with the teachers, so they would be ready to even receive those students back. Because a lot of times you would have teachers that when they put a kid out, they didn't want to see that kid again. And then you had to break that mentality, because just like I told the students, all the learning is taking place in the classroom. So every second you spend it with me outside of the classroom is a loss. Even though I might be telling you something that's going to help you out, my goal is to have you back in the classroom. And I would tell the teachers the same thing too. I would tell them, make me the bad cop. I want it so your kids want to be with you, not to be with me. And it was a process, and it carried over into to Brown Deer because we have a SEL person in our building. Shout out Mr. Oliver, that's my guy, our SEL person. But we also established a culture team that meets weekly. The culture team is our SEL guy. It's me. It's Mr. Griffin. It's our school counselor. It's the social worker. It's the school psych, where we come together and we discuss topics. What kids are we seeing in the office? What kids are having some things going on outside of school? What teachers do we see that may be struggling with building that culture or with their classroom management? So we can strategize as a team and come together, because oftentimes we'll all interact with different people and not know what's going on. And this is a way that we can bring that information together and have like a running notes and documents of things that we're observing and the actions that we're taking. So culture can go outside of the classroom when you have supports like that in place, and then it can turn over and have that positive effect. What was the year that we dropped our suspension numbers down? Like I can't
It
think of
was your
the exact number.
it was my first year there was a big reduction, but we took an even greater reduction the year you joined us after that, and really became our curator of culture. That year, I think we had less than 15 out of school suspensions that year. And that's coming from a school. My first year, what I inherited, we had over 200 and we took it down to 72. And then after that, we took it down to less than 15. And that was really because, like Mr. Love is saying, going into classrooms, sometimes we would sit in the classroom with the kid to let them know, like, we're not sending you to the office today. But then giving different teaching strategies. Something else that Mr. Love alluded to, not this year because we had some different things happen, but 2 out of the last 3 years, all new teachers that came to our building, whether you were experienced or not, had to go through Mr. Love's training session where he gathered other teachers in the building to come talk about classroom culture with the entire school. So that you knew what you were walking into, you knew our processes, you knew our procedures, you knew what our mentality was when we talk about following the Brown Deer way. Because if you're not aligned with us, it's going to cause some backlash from parents when they pull up the handbook saying, well, that's not in the handbook. Well, no, we already pre-warned you. We pre-trained you. Like, this is how we're going to make this work.
Yeah. And then to a certain extent, once you have those things in place and you're having that positive effect in specific classrooms, you take it to the next level, and it's school culture, in a sense, is what can we do to enlighten our staff and make sure our staff is all on the same page, and we're cutting out the gossip and all the negative talk and all the bringing your problems from home into the building and conflict. So that's one of the things we're working on now, because, like any other school, we're not perfect. So we're constantly working on things. Is it incentive? Is it dress down days? Is it staff outing? So a combination of all of those things. Mr. Griffin is giving affirmations in our school-wide chat. He lets the staff know that they're fantastic on a regular basis. I'm chiming in, giving them comfy dress down days and things like that, just to kind of keep the morale going, because I know what it feels like to come on a Wednesday morning and you might not have it in you, but if you can throw them jogging pants on that day and not have to get that whole fit together, you like, you know what, I can make it through hump day with my comfy bottoms on and my tennis shoes on. So, and it costs us nothing, in a sense. Now, we do want to maintain the integrity of the building. We want people to look professional, but we also want to give you things like that just to keep you going. And then it becomes something that's a norm, instead of just waiting for Teacher Appreciation Week or something like that, or having themed dress down days to where the teachers can dress down and be comfortable, but it's a theme that we can present to our students and our parents as well. So, and that's probably a whole other episode, is that school culture, because it can go left. And then you got a lot of things you got to work on. You can have a negative or a toxic environment, and then you expect that same staff to teach the kids at a high level, and it can't happen. So we might have to get onto that at another time.
Right, and that's definitely classroom morale and teacher morale. That's definitely another topic for another day.
Yep. And so what you guys say before we move on to our next segment? So when we're looking at classroom culture and management, would you guys lean more towards one way, or would you say it's a need for both, or where do you guys sit just in the last wrapping that up? And either one of you can go first.
Go ahead,
I'm on the
Mr.
other end.
Mr.
I'm on the
Griffin.
other end. I'm just gonna be very honest with everyone. The people that I've seen stress classroom management so much are the ones that often like are leading these teams about, hey, this is how you have classroom management, and then you go see their classroom, and guess what? They don't have classroom management, and then that distorts the whole building, because then you're looking at it like, why should I listen to you, and you trying to tell me how to operate in my room, and you're not operating in yours. But every classroom where I've seen engaged teachers giving it their all, truly like, hey, you're a part of something special, and like giving that message every single day, those classrooms always flourish at the end of the day. And I would rather be a part of that than someone that's telling me when I come in, did you sharpen your pencil? Did you move your name on the lunch count? Did you put your name at the top of the paper? Don't get me wrong. It's a place for all of that. And I'm not trying to say that's bad, but I want to, when they come in, hey, we got a special handshake. Like I can envision Mr. Love having a special handshake with everybody in the class. I can envision Mr. Love saying, hey, you catch that game last night before the day even started. And I'm like now eager and like, oh, let me tell you. And he say, hey, instead of telling me about it, write about it in the story right now. Like I want to be a part of that. Because then I'm excited every day. And that's what I'm going to go home and tell my parents about.
No, Dennis, I need both. I need classroom management and classroom culture. Just from the simple fact you said sharpening your pencils. I need pencils sharpened before the learning can start. And there's a time and a place to sharpen pencils. You're not going to get up every 15 seconds to go sharpen your pencil. With that being said, sharpen your pencil. If you want to get up, here's another pencil for you. I already got one ready for you. So there's that culture that comes into play. I know you want to get up right now to sharpen your pencil, but here we go. I got another one for you, just so we can continue the learning. And so students are continuing to facilitate that learning. Not that I want total control of the classroom. It's that I want to maximize the learning space as much as I can. And those little things can definitely take away from it.
That's absolutely fair, Doc. I can't argue with that. When I just think about the management piece, there's the Super Bowl game. The team was up like 30-something points, and then they decided to like take it easy and manage the game. And then next thing you know, they lost. And that's always what plays in my head. But Doc, there's one thing I got to say, because someone is not doing due justice to why they're the curator of culture. So I got to add this. They're going to be mad at me a little bit later. Doc, a few years ago, we had this really big staff turnover at our school. And if you remember on the first episode, Jason said when he first came to the school, I was like, you can't do that whole culture thing. You have to get in. You got to like just focus on the academics, because otherwise you're going to be in this box. And we were going through a lot of really big change, and it was a make or break year, to be quite honest with you, Doc. And all summer, like I'm perplexed, I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm talking to Jason, we're going, and at this time, it's just me and him as the only administrators in the building. And then one day he like pulled me by the coattails. He's like, hey, Griffin, I got to tell you something, and I know you're not going to like it, but listen to me first. Now, he's saying that because he knows I'm going to have a response right away. And he just literally says to me, let me take over the culture of the building piece. You focus on the academics so that way you're not stretched too thin. I promise you, I got the culture side, but we need the academic side, because we had already been building on the culture side, and our goal was to really push the academics. And he said, if you give this to me, I guarantee you we won't fail. And at this moment, I'm like, but Jason, you got to understand, you're going to be, he's like, trust me, we got this. We a team. We all going to shine together. The moment I listened to Jason on that, is truly the defining moment for me, when he definitely became the curator of culture, not just for the students, but for the entire building as a whole, families, for the teachers as well. We haven't looked back academically since we made that shift. And I'm glad that me and him had the rapport where we could have such a challenging conversation, because it wasn't an easy one, because it ultimately transformed the entire way that we were going to do business in our school, but it played to the strengths that we needed at that time. And that's not to say that he took a step back on the academic side, because he didn't. It was just we had to pause that at the moment to serve the greater good. And that's why for me, Jason is the curator of culture, because he fundamentally transformed our entire school based on, I'm going to play to my strengths, you play to yours. We're still a united team, so we're going to get 100% no matter what. And that's what really led to a lot of the transition when we talk about becoming a school that exceeds expectations, growing 9.8 points on the state report card, and everything else.
I'm going to say one more thing and then we can move on. Okay. That takes on great leadership, and you don't have that at every school in every district. So with that being said, we definitely need to have an episode that's just solely on leadership.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I'm proud to present to everybody. So we're doing a couple things different in the second episode moving forward. We have a brand new segment for everybody. So now we have Dr. Russell's Literacy Block. And now the reason I'm calling it this is because she has her own website. Doc, what's the website?
So the website is called the Reading Block MKE. And it's not necessarily going over like your literacy block. It's pretty much literacy tips and tricks when it comes for parents and for educators. And it's also my professional platform. And I'm still in the beginning stages of it, and I don't know what I want it to look like just yet. But you can definitely click on, there is a topic called Who's on the Block. And I interview kids and I talk to them about reading. And I just say, do you like to read? And they go into this whole nother world and just start explaining what they like to do and what they like about reading, what they dislike about reading, because a lot of kids may not like to read, but they do know how to read it or they want to know how to read. So it's just a positive website that shines the light on all readers, no matter where they are in their journey. So definitely go to Who's on the Block. And I'm featuring several kiddos from the Milwaukee area. They're reading on the website, and I'm also doing like a short interview with them. So
So
not
now,
necessarily like a literacy block type of feel.
right, but you know, this platform, I'm gonna shamelessly plug everybody on here all the time. So Doc, we on the block today. Dennis and I are on the
Oh,
block. What
okay.
can you share with us from the block that'll help us out with this topic today?
With this topic, classroom management and classroom culture. But before I share some resources and also some links and some books, I wanted to share a few stats.
Okay.
So the few stats. So have you all ever heard of RAND? RAND. So capital RAND, which
Mm-hmm.
stands for Research and Development. Dennis, Mr. Love, have you heard of those?
Heard of
Heard
it.
of that website?
Yep,
Okay.
sound familiar.
So it stands for Research and Development. It's pretty much a nonprofit global policy like think tank, and they provide research on various subjects, and education being one of them. So just to start off with a few stats. So the national average for teacher turnover in the United States is about 8% annually, which is higher than many other professions. 36% of teachers said that they were considering leaving their job by the end of 2023 and 2024 school year. 55% of educators reported planning to leave their profession earlier than they had intended. And the last one that I want to read really relates to this topic. Stress, particularly related to classroom management and classroom culture, is one of the top reasons teachers leave, even more so than pay.
Mm.
So I think we need to definitely revisit classroom culture and classroom management. And that's just the study from RAND. And it's at the top of the list, even more so than pay. So we'll come back to this hopefully. Is that okay with the
Mm.
both of you?
I'm
Yes,
for it.
definitely.
Okay. One resource that comes to mind is Zaretta Hammond. Have you all heard of Zaretta Hammond and her I think that might be a book study that you all, or do you all do book studies within your PLCs?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a book called Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain.
Okay.
And she really uses real life classroom experiences throughout that entire book. So it's not just giving you several statistics. She's actually bringing in real life scenarios where teachers have seen success. There's also Robert Marzano when he speaks about classroom management as well. So he has a book out, a very recent book out about classroom management and research based strategies at work. And Mr. Love is very similar to what you were referring to about proximity and tips and tricks when it comes to managing your classroom. And I think
Okay.
reading those two together will definitely put your perspective in a different place. Also,
Okay.
another one is Goldie Muhammad. I actually have that book sitting right here in front of me, Cultivating Genius. This is a very good book as well. So just starting off, you don't want to give out so many resources as if teachers have time to read, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say those three would be my top three choices right now.
Man, I appreciate that. That's the way to kick off the block right there. The block with Doc, man, is going to be a great segment. I'm letting people know that now. It only get bigger and better as we move forward. Now, introducing another segment, the segment that's almost going to take us out of here for the day. Here, make you think with Dennis Griffin. All right, what we thinking about today, Dennis?
All right. Today's what I want you to think about is this: the lack of connection disconnects you from purpose. I want you to let that sink in for a moment, even for everybody that's out there watching right now. I'm going to say that again. The lack of connection disconnects you from purpose. And when you think about the numbers that Doc just gave from the RAND study, one of the things that I see right away is a disconnection from purpose. And what we have to realize when we start talking about purpose is not fulfilled through isolation. So when I hear numbers of like people talking about being stressed out and it's the classroom this and the classroom that, I'm like, who are they connected to? Who is their team? Because like I work with Mr. Love. I can tell you we respond. And sometimes people might feel, well, you didn't respond fast enough. And that's going to happen in any school. But here's what I can guarantee you. We'll call parents with you. We'll have parent meetings with you. We'll come check in and get the kids. Mr. Love is notorious for not only himself, but training up all the other members of the culture team and SEL team, and even the recess supervisors at our school. First thing in the morning after everybody's in the building, all you do is see a bunch of people just going around to every single classroom, checking in. And when we're doing those check-ins, we're getting a gauge of the temperature in the building, but there's certain kids we're looking for, like, hey, we heard you might have had a bad night. We're checking in ahead of time. 3 or 4 people just in your face trying to say, hey, you ready for a great day? And then when you think about it, if you're not connected, you can't fulfill your purpose. I can't fulfill my purpose in isolation. We're here together fulfilling purpose. If we were all isolated, we wouldn't have the power and the magnitude and the brain width that we're currently divulging to one another, because otherwise that puts us back into this management reel. And once again, for management, you don't need connection. You just need a process. You just need rules to follow. But ultimately, like when you think about your purpose is meant to unleash the talents of other people. I just told you, Mr. Love is the curator of culture in our building. How did that happen? He stopped me and said, hey, we got a purpose to achieve. I understand you got a vision. You got things you want to do in this checklist. But guess what? It's about curating the culture of this building so we can achieve greatness. And with that being said, just remember, the culture you're creating is also part of your purpose, everybody. I'm not here to change you. I'm just here to make you
I
think.
like that, Dennis. I like that. I
I
like
like
that.
that. I want to get at that Diddy. I know this tough, but I like that. Oh man. Now we're about to wrap things up. We're gonna close out with some last second best practices for building classroom culture or some best practices for management. I'll lead off. My best advice I could give you is get to know the kids. Get to know them. Spend that time, like Dennis said at the beginning of the year. Don't rush into just teaching. Talk, have conversations, ask them how they're doing. And if you're like an introvert and you don't know how to really get, well, first of all, you shouldn't be an introvert if you're in front of that classroom teaching. But if you are and you're struggling with building those relationships, we used to do some journal prompts in one of my classrooms every day. And the prompt would start with last night I, or yesterday after school I. And the kids would just have to fill it in from there. And then they would stand up and read it to their classmates. And when they're doing that, the kids are learning about each other and making connections. But me as the teacher, I'm taking it in, I'm processing that. So I'm learning like, okay, this is what this person does. Now the thing is you got to be ready because somebody might share some crazy things at home, and then you might have to jump into caretaker mode and be like, hey, that was kind of rough what you just shared. How can I help, or how can I point you in the right direction? But for the most part, you're going to learn so much about the kids. And then on Mondays, it was this weekend like I said, you might find somebody like, I didn't do nothing, I was in the house, and they probably really didn't. But then from there, you can take that conversation and try to make it positive and ask them about some things. What would you like to have done, or what are some of your other interests? But have the kids express themselves and be willing to listen to them so you can get a better relationship with them.
I'm
That's
going to go
definitely a
last,
great
Dennis, so
pointer.
you go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm going to say get to know names as soon as possible. I'm going to give you a little strategy that I use. I get everybody into a circle. Circles are very powerful in schools that everybody knows. And I start off, good morning, I'm Great Griffin. And then the next kid goes and they say, good morning, Great Griffin. And then they give their name and an adjective. Then the next person has to go, good morning, Great Griffin. They have to say, that's Joyful Jason. And then I am whoever they are. Now, the thing is with that, it's repetition, so you tend to learn everybody's name. And if your class is smart, they're going to make you go last because you're the teacher, which works because you've had so much time to practice. But ultimately what happens is Even if I can't remember your name, I'm going to remember your adjective. So when I'm engaging with you, I have one or two ways to engage with you that lets you know you are valued, you are important, that within this first hour of the school day, I know your name.
Before Doc go, let me share this real quick. Me and Doc was working together, and we had the kids. It was like at the end of a summer. This when we was at Universal, and Doc did a thing like that. But like I said before, Doc got like choreography and dance moves. She had a circle of them kids stumping and clapping, like introduce yourself, right up, right up. It was something like, you remember that, Doc? I got the footage on my phone. Hey, I got the footage on my phone. One day I'm gonna share it. It's gonna be on the episode of this. Doc was out there clapping. Introduce yourself, right up, right up.
I need you to send it to me because I could not remember that.
I got it. I got
and
the
I
footage.
appreciate that, Dennis, because you're making me think of that, what you're bringing up, Mr. Love. And then also, Mr. Love, your activity, I took that from you just to get to know the kids a little bit better. Like last night or after school and then over the weekend. I mean, we always had a journal prompt, but it was never last night right after school. And I think I took that from you one day.
Yep.
So I'm going to end with this. With classroom behavior, whatever happened in that classroom the day before, don't bring it into the next day and bring it back up. If it happened yesterday, it's a new day. Start all over. Give kids grace when it comes to behavior. Get over it.
Yep. And with that being said, man, we made it to the end. I was over here trying to be sneaky and see if I could find that footage, but I can't find it fast enough. And I don't want to hold up our viewers.
It had to be years ago. It was probably about
it was.
5 or 6 years ago.
It was years ago. It was years ago. Doc, I got it. I don't know how to put it on here.
You gotta show it to me before you
okay,
upload.
I won't. But just so y'all know I'm not playing, I'm gonna hold this up to the thing. It's muted. I don't know if y'all can see that. Y'all can't see that. Doc was on here. Doc had them kids lined up. Introduce yourself, right up.
Remember that?
Yourself, right? Yeah, she had them in the gym. We gonna get to it. Some of this stuff that we saying, I got receipts for it. And we got receipts for some of the stuff we said. I'm gonna send it. But now, last words, we're gonna close it out. Any shout outs? I want to lead off shout outs. Like I said, my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law just welcomed the baby into the world, so shout out to them. Yay. Other than that, nothing else with me. Remember, you can find me Instagram at Fly95, Facebook Jason Love, the website newbworld.net. Anybody else with some shout outs before we wrap up?
The Reading Block, mke.com. Shampoo Day. If you haven't gotten it, you need your hands on it. That's about it for me right now.
Well, I'm going to shout out my youngest daughter. She had homecoming last week, so I definitely want to shout her out. I don't know how I was able to deal with it, but she had a really good time. And then my oldest daughter, she was home for this weekend. Got to take her back to Vanderbilt first thing in the morning. She's flying out first thing in the morning, so safe travels to her. And then, just everybody have a great week. And just remember, for me, my last parting words, culture is every day. If you don't like the culture, you are the first person that can change the culture wherever you are at. You can be that linchpin. You can turn things around because your culture is a day-to-day product of what you produce and what you let out there.
There we go. And as always, please first off, thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video, you comment on the video, you share with someone out there, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, we out of here. Say thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. N.U.B.Y. Movie forever.